What's up, Mama fans? Hope everybody's doing well. Got two games to recap today. We had the Rutgers game and the Wichita State game. They lost both, so Monmouth drops to 0-5 on the season. But we'll talk about that a little bit and why it's not the worst thing in the world and the sky is falling. It's none of that right now. Still a team developing. It's still a team figuring things out, and it really isn't quite as bad as you might think. So let's start with Rutgers from Friday night. I got to go to the game. My uncle lives up there. He got tickets, and it was kind of a last-minute thing. I was able to go. So Monmouth did not play poorly in this game. There were stretches where there was a lot of sloppiness, especially early on. Had some jitters for sure. But overall, to me, there were two things here. Monmouth didn't look great, and they didn't take care of the ball for a lot of the game, and they were sloppy at times, but Rutgers didn't really do anything that impressed me. Like, sure, they scored 98 points. We're not a great defensive team yet. Great. They scored 98 points. They took a ton of shots. They did not look like the 24th team in the country to me. I know Ace Bailey just got back for them versus us. But truthfully, like, we were kind of with them for a while there. Even though it was 20-point difference at one point, we were never really, like, getting our doors blown off by like 40 or 50. It never got there. It really never even got to 30. There were times where it felt like the wheels were coming off, but within the last few minutes of the game, Monmouth got it down to 11 and had a three-pointer where if that goes in, we're down by 8 right around the final media timeout. So it's not like they were pummeling us at the end of the game. They really weren't. They extended their lead. They made free throws. They ran away with the game. That happens in a big gym like that. The fans were great at Rutgers, sold out crowd. They showed up. Their students showed up. I wish that our students gave a quarter of care to our basketball games as the Rutgers students did. Now, granted, yes, they're 24th in the country, and we haven't had a serious winner in a few years since Walker and Shavar left. But even with that, our students never really came out the way they should. We've had times where the student section was crowded, but never organized, never, since the whiteboards really, and they got in trouble for that, for good reason. But since the whiteboard era and since the Justin Robinson era, like, we really haven't had a loud student section. So credit to Rutgers, and those kids, and the band was awesome. But it was a really cool environment to be a part of. But I really didn't think, for as sloppy as we played and for that kind of team, I didn't think we actually were out of the game. The highlight of the game, Abdi Bashir, my goodness, 38 points, setting a school record with 11 threes. He was unbelievable, and he did it quietly until the end of the game. Like, the first half, you look up, you're like, oh, he's got 23 points. Didn't even realize, like, he was hitting shots, he hit a couple free throws, and you didn't even realize he was doing what he was doing. And then late in the game, he just caught fire and was just chucking away, and everything seemed to be going in, and he had a career night. He probably added about $300,000 to his NIL next year. So that's not great for us, but we'll take it while he's here. If you think about it, I was thinking on the ride home from Rutgers, Nikita, who was a solid player for us, like, he was a starter the whole year, got 25, 30 minutes a game. He was out there a lot. He was really good. I wouldn't say he was a dominant big man. Like, he was a really good player. He got $250,000 from Notre Dame to go play in the ACC. If he's getting $250,000, Abdi, who is the Steph Curry of the CAA right now and just has no conscience, just shoots it from wherever he wants, how is he not getting more than that, right? So, like, I got to imagine he's going to get 400, 500K. He's going to go somewhere big time, and he's going to get paid a lot of money and take care of his family to do it. I know he's saying the right things right now. He wants to stay at Monmouth. He wants to stay with King, and King talked about that in the presser the other night, but there's no way, guys. When somebody hands him a $500,000 check and possibly more, I mean, as a 20-year-old kid, there's no way. There's just no way. But good for Abdi. I hope he keeps shooting it this year, at least for us, and helps us go on a run. But what an experience to watch. I'm so glad I got to see it in person and not on TV. He really was unbelievable. 10 threes, he was just on fire. Madison Durr also had a great game. He seems every game he's hitting 15, 17 points. Every night he's doing it. Really impactful transfer for us right now. He drives strong to the basket. He's not like the best ball handler for a point guard that I've seen, but he is pretty strong with the ball, and he does a lot of things the right way. So we're all pretty happy about Madison from people I've been speaking to. Book has been solid. Had a tough night versus Rutgers. Still had 8 rebounds. They weren't really letting him do much on offense. The one thing we got to figure out is the center position, and I think it's just a committee now where Chris Morgan's probably the leader in the pack, and then you have Mecca, or Mika, I'm not sure how to say his name. You have a few, Morador, you have a few other guys mixed in there. I think Morgan's probably the leader of the group, but that's something that has to get figured out, and it will give them a few games, but we definitely need consistency in the front court, like I said last time. Jared Valencia makes his debut versus Rutgers. He was kind of in and out, didn't really get in until the second half or maybe the end of the first. I can't remember. He only got 11 minutes in the game, took a couple of shots, had a lot of fouls. He did look tired. He looked winded after a few minutes. You could see him kind of lining up for a free throw where he was down on the block, and he was tired. And that's normal when you're playing a top team and you're on the road and you haven't had your conditioning in probably. You're just finally healthy. And King even said he probably shouldn't have played him in that game, and he did anyway. And, it did make a difference. He was healthy for Wichita and played well in that game. But you can see his conditioning still getting there, and that'll come. And he is, with Abdi, our 1A, 1B. So it's good to see him back on the court. Jack Collins struggled again. He did hit a couple of shots. He hit 2 threes in the night, 2 for 9 overall. Again, Jack gives you everything on defense. He gives you everything with toughness. One thing I did notice between that game and the Wichita game, he is turning the ball over a lot, and that's not something we're used to seeing him do. It seems like his decision making has been a little bit off, and that might be frustration from not shooting it as well as he can, and not having the role that maybe he believes he can have in this team. He sees other guys taking these shots and playing well, and he's not yet. So it's probably pressing and probably frustration. But like I said in the last episode, Jack Collins knows what he's doing out there. He's a junior, he's a veteran, and he's really the heart of this team. So again, not worried about it, but if we can get Abdi and Durr and Collins and Valencia, those 4 on the same page, and then you add in Boog doing his thing, you add in Chris Morgan, you add in Justin Ray making some shots from the corner, you get Demings, who played pretty well against Wichita State. If Andrew Ball can continue developing, this team can do some things this year. We just need them all on the same page, and eventually they'll get there. They're still finding out their rules. They're still going through it. But they'll get there, all right? So overall, I gave the Rutgers game like a B+. They really competed in the game. They really played a lot better than I expected. For a 21.5 point spread, I thought that was a little bit low. If you were allowed to bet in New Jersey legally, which I still don't understand why you can't, I probably would have bet Rutgers, just being objective. I thought this would be about a 25, 26 point game. And they held it to 17, and they had it within almost single digits at the end, so really can't complain. They gave a really good effort up at Rutgers. And then they flew out to Wichita State just 2 days later for a Monday night game in Kansas. And guys, we were there. We were right there until the end. It felt like we were going to run away with it and take a lead, make some free throws, and put them away. It didn't happen that way. Abdi had 15 points in the game. They did a really good job on him, doubled him for most of the game. Boog Robinson at 12. Durr was held to just 8, only took a few shots in the game. Collins 7, Valencia 8, Morgan 7. The scoring was really spread out, but when you only score 66 points, it's tough to win in Division I. Although what's funny, our field goal percentage was actually higher than it's been in any other game, so go figure. But it was a slower paced game. It was a very good defensive game. The story of the game, though, was free throws. And the announcers kept alluding to it because when Wichita State shot on, if you're looking at the screen, it was the left side of the court. When Wichita was shooting there in the first half, they were struggling from the line. And when we shot there in the second half, it was like a lid on the rim. We shot 6 for 18. 6 for 18 from the free throw line. Guys, in any world, in any level of basketball, that's not going to get it done. And again, I'm not saying I can go out there and do it. I'm sitting here, not a professional college, even a high school basketball player, just looking on as a fan. I'm not saying I can go out there in front of fans and do it. That's not what I'm doing here. But for a college basketball team, it's got to be better. And I'm sure King's going to go through that. I'm sure they're going to get some extra free throws in this week. And maybe it was just that rim for whatever reason. Everybody was struggling. Maybe there was something behind it people were seeing and distracting. Who knows what it was? We weren't there. But 6 for 18 is tough. Madison Durr, who's a very good free throw shooter, went 5 for 12. I mean, we didn't take many free throws outside of that. Valencia was 0 for 3. Boog was 0 for 1. Morgan was 1 for 2. So we only took 18 on the night, which isn't that many. But when Madison Durr is struggling like that at the line, it's saying something about whatever they were looking at, something was off. And it cost us the game, missing a lot of free throws. I'm not saying Madison in general. I'm saying as a team. Missing free throws cost us this game. And, they didn't shoot it great. They were 20 for 31. They were under 65%. But when you give away that many points on the road versus not a high major team, but a higher major in the American, it's going to hurt. You're going to lose that game most times, especially in a close game. You can't afford to have 14 turnovers and also give away 12 free throws. You just can't do it. So it's a learning experience. I'm sure the rest of the season, I bet we don't see Durr miss more than 2 in a game from now on. He's going to get that straight, but it was frustrating to watch. It was frustrating for them because they had this one. If they make free throws, they take care of the ball. They had this game. It would have been a nice win on the road. And Wichita is a good team, guys. They may not be a tournament team, but they were projected around 4th in the American, which is a solid conference. It's not a top 5 or 6 conference, but it's still solid. So to take that team as far as we did on the road, I believe the spread was around 20. So Monmouth really, I gave them an A- for the game. I took a little off because of the free throws, but they really gave a strong effort in this game. It felt like we belonged in this game for the first time. Michigan State was a whole other class of basketball. Temple, King said the effort wasn't there. We didn't play well at all. We weren't focused that night. We got crushed for an A-10 team. And then obviously Rutgers, they didn't outclass us, but you could see on the court which team was supposed to win that game. It didn't feel that way here. It felt like we were just as good of a team as Wichita, which is saying a lot considering where they're supposed to be this year. So overall, I'm not upset with how the last 2 games went. I don't think this is a time at all for Monmouth fans to think the sky is falling and we're 0-5. Oh my God. It doesn't feel that way for me. We've had 0-5 starts where you're like, wow, this is going to be a long year. Like the first year for King, we were 0-5. We were 0-8, I think, before we got a win. We just knew that wasn't going to be a very good team. There were other years, with Ray Salnath and those guys started 0-9, 0-10 around there. That was a little bit surprising because we were rebuilding, but we had some talent. So that was frustrating back then that we were like, that's when I started the podcast. We're like, what's happening here? We've had years where we started really slow and a tough schedule and we struggled out of the gates. But this doesn't feel that way. They're still building this thing. They're still figuring out all the pieces. Valencia just got back. Jack Collins is still struggling. Like, they're 0-5, but a lot of things are kind of out of their control right now. So, you look ahead at the schedule and, there is some reason to be optimistic. So, starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they are in Texas for the Axum tournament versus Youngstown State, Stephen F. Austin, and Presbyterian. Now, none of those are huge names. Stephen F. Austin's usually a tournament team, but so they may be tough, but the other teams aren't really basketball powerhouses. So hopefully you're able to get at least 1, maybe 2 wins down there, and you get back on track a little bit. You feel good about yourself going into Seton Hall. Again, Seton Hall, always a tough team, Big East school. That's never an easy game. I'm going to try to get to that one. And then you're at Lehigh, not as hard of a game. At Princeton, very tough game. And you close it out with Fairfield and at Auburn, who is really, really good. So if you're going to win a couple of games to get your season going, now is the time. All right. You got Wichita State, had a really tough game against them. You were right there. Win a couple of games down in Texas because Seton Hall is going to be a tough one. At Lehigh, they're never easy, but might be able to get a win there. And then at Princeton and at Auburn, we're in for a tough schedule, a tough sledding ahead of us. So really, it's important for this team to get a couple of wins now and just get the feel of what it's like to win a game, because if they can't do that now, it might be a while before their first win. So I believe they're going to get at least 1 or 2 wins down there, but we'll see what happens. So I hope everybody has a great week ahead, and I'll talk to you soon. Go Hawks.